New York Times bestselling author Jennifer L. Armentrout's Blood and Ash series is captivating and sexy. Chosen at birth to usher in a new era, Poppy's life has never been hers. Waiting for the day of her ascension, she would rather be with the gods fighting the evil that took her family. The entire kingdom rests on her shoulders when Hawk, a god bound to her ascension, enters her life. She is tangled with desire. He tempts her with the forbidden, a kingdom. Blood and Ash, a twisting, steamy escape, available in print, ebook, and audiobook where books are sold.
Good sleep should come naturally, and with the new Natural Hybrid mattress, it can. A collaboration between Lisa and West Elm, the Natural Hybrid is expertly crafted from natural latex, natural wool, and certified safe foams to elevate your sleep sanctuary and support a greener tomorrow. Breathable organic cotton and moisture-wicking Joma wool consistently provide cool and comfortable slumber. Every purchase helps fuel Lisa's work with shelters and those in need. Visit lisa.com to learn more. That's LEESA.com.
So here we are. This is not the 12 days of Crimelines, but rather the extra random episodes of December. That's what we're doing this year. We're going to roll with it. And it looks like we're going to do 4 episodes this week, 4 episodes next week, and then the Beyond the Files bonus content for Patreon, Supercast, and Apple will go up after that. I know I usually spread those out during the month. Don't worry, both of those bonus episodes are coming. Just because I'm doing so much main feed content, they're going to get lost, so I'm just going to put them at the end of the month. I usually take the first 2 weeks in January off, and I announce it every year, and then every year I end up releasing at least one bonus episode or something during my break, because as we know, I'm not that great at taking breaks. But for now, we have a bunch of content through the end of this month, probably 2 weeks off, and then I'll be back to the normal weekly schedule starting January 15th. So with that, enjoy the first bonus episode of this December. Two women disappeared from the streets of Honolulu within a month of each other and are later found dead. Are the cases related, and will they ever be solved? I'm Charlie, and welcome to Crimelines. Welcome to today's December bonus episode. I'm not calling it the 12 Days of Crimelines because I don't have 12 Days of Crimelines. It's more like a week of Crimelines, and we are going to focus on unsolved cases that don't have as much information out there about them. The 2 cases that we're talking about today are possibly connected, which is why I'm covering them together, and we need to start with Michelle Bensinger. I have covered a few lesser-known cases that don't have a lot of coverage, but the case of Michelle Bensinger may take the cake. If not for the murder of another victim, there would be little or nothing on Michelle's murder out there. I did have to use other methods to learn about her, and that included putting on my genealogical research hat to really dig into it. For those who do family history research, you know that really old ancestors are hard to find, but also really recent ones are too, because even though we know there are a ton of records out there and a digital footprint, we have a little thing that we call privacy laws, and you can't just request someone's birth certificate to see who their parents are and where they were born without having a reason or being that person or having evidence that everyone included on that birth certificate are dead. But thankfully, I was able to find some information that led me to believe that Michelle was born in November of 1974 in Boston, Massachusetts, and her parents were Diana and Michael. Based on this lead, I searched the newspaper archives for Michelle Lapalato, which would have been her birth name, and that got me to Michelle Bensinger's obituary in the Boston Globe. It had not shown up on earlier searches where I searched for Michelle Bensinger because her surname was spelled differently in her obituary than it's spelled anywhere else. Most sources spell it Bensinger with an S, but the obituary spelled it Bensinger with a Z. So this little bit of genealogical research really helped out here. I was able to confirm that the Michelle I was looking at was born in Boston in November of 1974, and these were her parents. It looks like, based on the records I have, Michelle's surname changed around 1992 when she was 18, which indicated that this is when she got married. From her obituary, we know she had one child, a daughter, and in addition to living in the Boston area, where she grew up, she also lived in Florida, which is where her dad settled, and also California before making it to Honolulu. We know Michelle was in Honolulu by January of 1996 because, based on Hawaii's public court records, she was pulled over and ticketed for not having a valid driver's license or vehicle insurance. It's not clear if she had custody of her daughter at this point or not, but it seems likely, based on the lifestyle she led, that she did not have her daughter with her at some point. I'm just not sure when. Over the next few years, Michelle became familiar with the Honolulu police, and they were familiar with her, as she had a few arrests for trespassing and several for prostitution. We do not know when 24-year-old Michelle Bensinger was last seen, but from what's been released publicly, we do know that on August 10th, 1999, her body was found by a farmer in a sugarcane field, and she was found in the nude. Based on the level of decomposition, it was determined that she had been dead for probably about 2 weeks. She was found about an hour north of her home, and her car was found just about halfway between her home and the sugarcane field. Due to the state of her remains, there was no obvious cause of death, and the manner was considered undetermined, but it was initially investigated as a probable homicide based on the circumstances. Being nude and dumped in a field leaves open the possibility there was another cause like an overdose and someone panicked, but I imagine if it was an overdose, they would have known that on autopsy by running a tox screen. It seems the most likely explanation is murder. There was certainly, at the very least, a third party involved. If the police know who Michelle may have been meeting in the month prior to her death, or why she was so far from home, they have not said. The reporting on this case has been brief and very often a footnote to the case we're discussing next. And I think that's probably because Michelle was a sex worker and many assumed she was killed by a client. We'll get more into the disparity in the reporting later. We need to first get into that second case, which is the case of Jubilee Loom. Jubilee generally went by Miley and was the second of 6 children. Her mother told James Song with the Honolulu Star Bulletin that she started having trouble with Miley as she became a teenager. She was a fun, loving, and nurturing person, but when she was 13, she started hanging out with a group that liked to frequent the Chinatown section of Honolulu. Chinatown in Honolulu is a rough part of town, particularly at night, which is when Miley wanted to be out there hanging out with her friends. Though the only thing I found when I searched her adult record was a citation for jaywalking, the police have said she was arrested 3 times for prostitution. So she was arrested 3 times for prostitution, but the only thing on her adult record was a citation for jaywalking. And using my deduction skills, that tells me that those 3 arrests were from when she was a minor. And while that type of arrest no longer happens in some states, where it is now assumed that a minor engaging in sex work is being exploited, it hasn't changed in Hawaii, or in Alaska, Arizona, Delaware, Kansas, Maryland, Massachusetts, Oregon, and Virginia. People under the age of 18 can still be prosecuted for, quote, commercial sex offenses. They can't legally get married, but they can get arrested for the charge of prostitution. I will say that in late 2023, the Honolulu Police Commission noted that they did have an increase in arrests for commercial sex crimes, but they said that it's because they've started to go after the traffickers rather than just focusing on picking up sex workers. And by that, I mean those who are doing it by choice and those who are doing it by force. So here's hoping we are on our way to not arresting minors for being exploited. Early reports about Miley say that she was unhoused, but her family says that was not true. If she stayed out in Chinatown, it was not because she didn't have anywhere else to be. They had an open door policy, and anytime she came home, she was welcome back. Anytime she spent sleeping on people's couches or even sleeping rough was by her choice. In early 1999, her family noticed a change in Miley, a change for the better this time. She started staying home more, and she was attending adult education classes because she was determined to make up for the education she missed out on. Her hope was to get her GED. And then she got engaged to a man named Ambrosio, and they set a wedding date for November 26, 1999, which would have been her 22nd birthday. In late spring of 1999, Miley found out that she was pregnant, which gave her even more motivation to change her path. But she didn't find change coming as easily as she had hoped. Ambrosio said that sometimes she would still go out at night and not always come home, so then he would go out to Chinatown to drive around and look for her. Because Miley would sometimes drop out of contact, it's not entirely sure when she went missing. In August of 1999, Ambrosio was admitted into the hospital for heart issues and was released on Sunday, August 22nd. The next day, which was a Monday, he tried to get in touch with Miley, but he just couldn't reach her. He said he drove around looking for her, but she wasn't hanging out anywhere that he knew she frequented. Ambrosio was growing concerned about Miley because he would normally have heard from her by this point. And of course, we know now that he had reason to be worried.
Attention parents and grandparents. Are you searching for the perfect gift for your kids this holiday season? Give the gift of adventure that will last all year long. A Guardian bike. The easiest, safest, and quickest bikes for kids to learn on. Kids are learning to ride in just one day. No training wheels needed. What sets Guardian bikes apart? Designed especially for stability, they're low to the ground with a wide wheelbase and ultra-lightweight frames, offering superior control and balance. This design gives young riders the ability to learn in just one day, without tears or frustration. Guardian bikes are the only kids' bikes designed and assembled in a USA factory, ensuring top-notch quality and durability. They were also featured on Shark Tank and are the New York Times Wirecutter top kids bike pick for 2024. Make holiday gifting stress-free with Guardian bikes. With guaranteed 1 to 2 day shipping for just $29, you can trust your gift will arrive in time to create magical memories this holiday season. Plus, sign up for their newsletter to receive a free bike log and pup with your first purchase, the perfect stocking stuffer for any kid on your list. Visit GuardianBikes.com to secure the ultimate holiday gift today. Happy riding!
New York Times bestselling author Jennifer L. Armentrout's Blood and Ash series is captivating and sexy. Chosen at birth to usher in a new era, Poppy's life has never been hers. Waiting for the day of her ascension, she would rather be with the gods fighting the evil that took her family. The entire kingdom rests on her shoulders when Hawk, a god bound to her ascension, enters her life. She is tangled with desire. He tempts her with the forbidden, a kingdom. Blood and Ash, a twisting, steamy escape available in print, ebook, and audiobook where books are sold.
Now I'd like to introduce you to Meaningful Beauty, the famed skincare brand created by iconic supermodel Cindy Crawford. It's her secret to absolutely gorgeous skin. Meaningful Beauty makes powerful and effective skincare simple, and it's loved by millions of women. It's formulated for all ages and all skin tones and types, and it's designed to work as a complete skincare system, leaving your skin feeling soft, smooth, and nourished. I recommend starting with Cindy's full regimen, which contains all 5 of her best-selling products, including the amazing youth-activating melon serum. This next-generation serum has the power of melon leaf stem cell technology. It's melon leaf stem cells encapsulated for freshness and released onto the skin to support a visible reduction in the appearance of wrinkles. With thousands of glowing 5-star reviews, why not give it a try? Subscribe today and you can get the amazing Meaningful Beauty system for just $49.95. That includes our introductory 5-piece system, free gifts, free shipping, and a 60-day money-back guarantee. All of that available at meaningfulbeauty.com.
The following day, which was Tuesday, August 24th, an employee at a floral shop in Honolulu went to take some trash to the dumpster. When he got out there around 12:30 in the afternoon, he saw that someone had dumped a trash bag right in front of the bin. The bag was too heavy for him to lift alone, so he asked a coworker for some help. The coworker came over and thought something seemed off. They used a knife to cut the bag open, and that's when they saw dark hair. They called the police, and when they responded, they found the nude body of a woman inside the heavy-duty trash bags. Running the fingerprints let them know that this was Jubilee Miley Loom. What the employees of the shop could tell the police was pretty limited. They had been out there around 11:30 in the morning, and the bag with Miley's body was definitely not there. An hour later, it was. So that's a pretty limited window. And also, if you think about it, it's pretty brazen for someone to dump her body in a well-populated area in broad daylight. A truck with purple and turquoise on it was seen leaving the parking lot in this time frame, so that was the first lead that was publicized. The investigators soon got another lead that Miley was last seen in the early morning hours on Monday, August 23rd, on Hotel Street in downtown Honolulu, which is on the edges of Chinatown. At this point, we know Ambrosio was looking for her. A witness said that they believe they saw her getting into a white or light-colored van. It was described as a 1987 to 90 model Ford Econoline van with swinging side doors and windows on the passenger side. On autopsy, Miley's cause of death was asphyxiation, and when her mother and sister identified her body, they said they saw bruises on her. They know whatever happened, Miley had suffered, and that was hard for them to process, as was the lack of movement in the case. There were leads, but none of them led to a solid suspect. Being found just 2 weeks after Michelle Bensinger's body had been found made some wonder if these cases were connected. The police acknowledged that the two probably did know each other, given that they were close in age, both engaged in sex work at some point, and they both frequented the downtown and Chinatown areas. As far as if the murders were connected, the police didn't have any evidence one way or the other. The official statement at the time was that they weren't saying they were connected, but they also weren't saying they weren't. One tip did come in that linked the two cases, and it came from an unusual source. It was a California inmate named Rodney D. King. Rod had been arrested in February of 1999 in Hawaii on what looked like federal charges. Most of the reporting says that he was a convicted pimp, but one of the charges, when I looked it up, was actually for promoting prostitution of a minor. So we're talking a real winner here. Rod was a guest of the U.S. prison system in California at the time Michelle and Miley were murdered, so we know he doesn't have direct involvement. He told the authorities that he knew Michelle for about 4 years as they ran in the same circles, and he said that Michelle actually ran her own escort service called Petite Pleasures. And Miley, who Rod said he knew for about 7 months, ran the phones for her. Whether she was working as a sex worker for Michelle or not, or whether Rod knew, wasn't clear. Rod said Michelle had sent a letter to him in prison that was dated on July 23rd. So on July 23rd, she would have mailed this letter from Hawaii, and I don't know how long it would have taken to get into the California prison system, go through all the inspections, and be released to Rod. But in this letter, according to Rod, Michelle wrote that she was in some type of love triangle, and something in the dynamic made her afraid for her safety. It is not clear in the vague reporting if he actually produced this letter or he just claimed he got it. Rod said he was coming forward because Michelle was his friend and she would have done the same for him, but we can't ignore that he may have been motivated to help in the hopes it would help his own legal situation. Rod did end up getting out of prison after this and went right back to what he was doing. He ended up getting arrested after accusations of more child trafficking. A 16-year-old accused him of giving her meth to make her more compliant as he trafficked her on the streets. Due to his previous conviction, he was not going to get off easy, and it appears Rod King died behind bars. Anyway, Rod's entire role in this is just connecting the two victims by saying they knew each other and maybe even worked together. And maybe they did, but that doesn't mean they were killed by the same person. It's possible that they were both living high-risk lifestyles, and there are more killers out there than we want to acknowledge, particularly ones who feel they have the right to prey on the most vulnerable. Maybe we sleep better at night if we connect a bunch of cases to one killer, but it's not reality. As of today, both of these cases are unsolved. When I first started looking into this, I actually thought Michelle's case might have been solved because she's only mentioned in passing in coverage of Miley Loom's case. The Honolulu Police Department has a page for Miley, but not for Michelle Bensinger. The website Uncovered has an entry for Miley, but not for Michelle. When there was a media push in 2006 to generate new leads in Miley's case, there was no mention of Michelle. So I thought from the early reporting to today, it must have been solved because Michelle is no longer mentioned. But I can't find any evidence it's solved. There may be a few reasons for the disparity in coverage here. One is that Miley's death was categorized as a homicide definitively, whereas Michelle's death was under suspicious circumstances and not necessarily looked at as a homicide. Without that homicide designation, it may just not come up when cold cases are being looked at. The other difference, in my opinion, is that Michelle's family was not local. Her mom and siblings lived in Massachusetts and Connecticut, and her father lived in Florida. There was no one around for the media to ask questions to. I have access to a lot of records, and I had to use a bunch of them to even figure out her parents' names. I can't imagine being a journalist in Hawaii in 1999 and trying to track them down. But aside from coverage of the case, I think there are even more reasons why these cases may be unsolved. There were 36 murders on the island of Oahu that year, including the Xerox killings, which took over national headlines. If you're not familiar with that case, it's a mass shooting that occurred on November 2nd, 1999, when a Xerox technician opened fire and shot 8 of his coworkers, killing 7 of them. The catalyst was that the company was phasing out the machine he was an expert on, and he was refusing to learn the new machine. His supervisor told him on November 1st that he needed to start training on it the next day, but instead he showed up with a gun. The shooter pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity, a plea that the jury rejected. But that case, happening 3 months after Michelle and Miley's bodies were found, very likely diverted police resources and investigative resources. Priority is going to go to the cases that have national headlines, media pressure, are on their way to trial, so there's a deadline to get it all done, and all of that adds up to the harder cases to solve, the Michelles and the Mileys of the world, to get pushed to the side. We don't know the state of the evidence at this point. Neither were found with their clothing, so we can't DNA test that, but hopefully on autopsy, swabs were taken, and if they have been properly stored, it's possible we can get DNA. DNA that may or may not match somebody, but they can at least compare it to each case to see if these cases are in fact related. If you know anything about the murders of Michelle Bensinger and or the murder of Jubilee Loom, you can call the Honolulu Crime Stoppers at 808-955-8300 or submit a tip on their secure website. I'll leave the phone number and a link to the website in the show notes. It is time for the December birthday shoutouts, but first I have to give 2 belated happy birthdays from November. So I want to say a very happy birthday to Leah and to Liz last month. I think that means you get an extra month to celebrate. And then for December, I want to say a very happy birthday to Carolyn, Alyssa, Cassidy, Renata, Heather, Shashi, Maria, Jen, Mandy, Silas, Noelle, and Jack. I hope that in the hustle and bustle of the holidays, your birthday doesn't get, pushed to the side too much, and that you enjoy a wonderful season, not just celebrating whatever holiday you celebrate, but also your birthday. Have a piece of cake for me, and happy birthday.
50 years ago, a young woman named Karen Silkwood got into her car alone.
She was reportedly on her way to deliver sensitive documents to a New York Times reporter.
She never made it, and those documents she'd agreed to carry were never found.
Do you think somebody killed her?
There's no question in my mind that someone killed her that night. I think they were trying to stop her in order to get the documents.
A new investigation into the life and death of America's first nuclear whistleblower.
Listen to Radioactive, the Karen Silkwood Mystery from ABC Audio. Listen now wherever you get your podcasts.